we're going to go ahead and get this thing started right on time. I'm very happy to see the turnout, especially after seniors no longer need CE credits. You're kind of nervous about the turnout, but we got lacrosse guys representing. I'm glad to see that. We've got environmental science and studies people representing, and we've got family members. We've got the chair of environmental science and studies. So we're really excited to have Miller Holstein back here on campus. He was always a joy to have in class. He was a lot of fun. He made a film in one of my classes called Backyard Chickens that got chickens made to be legal again in Rome because of his film. It was shown at the Rome International Film Festival. So he's back on campus coming in from Montana. We're excited to have him here. He is obviously a Berry College alumnus, former student athlete, lacrosse player. He studied environmental science and anthropology while he was a student here. After graduation, he traveled around quite a bit. He was navigating years of uncertainty and identity shifts in post-college life. So a lot of you who are here can learn from him in that regard. Seeking clarity and direction, he thru-hiked the entire 2,200-mile Appalachian Trail, an experience that offered him deep reflection and the foundation for his first published work, his book, The Trail Provides, which he's got up here available for you guys afterwards if you want to get a copy of that. His work is now focused on supporting individuals as they navigate identity shifts and life transitions through reflective conversation and guidance. Please give a round of applause to Miller Holstein.
Thank you all for coming. I've been over this hundreds of times in my head and I just forgot all of it, so we're going to wing this one. But yeah, I think it's very strange to be up here because I used to sit right there thinking how ridiculous it was that I had to get like 26 of these things and like, who is this guy talking? Like, why am I even here? But like looking back, I realized there were moments where something that person said like clicked. Like years later, something they said would come back up and I'm like, oh, like maybe he was on something. Maybe he was right. It's hard to see things at the time, but like all I hope is that whether you take something away today or down the road something clicks, I just ask that you listen today. Like I know it's finals time. I know you had dinner plans, you're doing something with your girlfriend, but like you're already in here, so you might as well just take it in. You don't have to take notes, you don't have to do anything, just enjoy. But I appreciate y'all coming. But yeah, I am an alumni here. I was environmental science. I played lacrosse. This is me. At a basketball game or something, who knows? That's my wife that I met here, and those are my boys from the lacrosse team. But yeah, great times here. I was a student athlete, and I'm going to go more into that in a little bit. The significance of being a student athlete, even just being a student, and what can happen when that transition comes. So, yeah. Forgot where I was already. Yeah. So, now that we're all here, I want you to let everything outside of here go. And the best way I know how to do that, to be present, is just to breathe a little bit. And I'm going to do that to get some jitters out, and I ask that you do it with me. So if everyone can just shut your eyes. If you don't shut them, I'm going to make eye contact. So, just a few. So breathe in with me. And breathe out. Let everything go. Nothing outside this room. Just be here. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last one. Breathe in. And let it all go. All right. I'm done with that. Now I have a question. Now that everyone is not thinking about anything else, what are you going to do after graduation? You guys that are in this room. That question was the bane of my existence. It was this question that felt more like an interrogation than like a lighthearted conversation or a small conversation. Because I didn't have an answer. It started out in high school, and it's not like what do you want to do with your life. It's more, what are you interested in? What are you going to do? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I'm good at math, I guess, and I like to play outside, and science is cool. So like, I'm gonna go do that, I guess. And so in high school, it's very lighthearted. You just like do science class. But as that high school years, as those end, it becomes, where are you gonna go to college? What are you gonna do in college? And I was like, oh, at that point, I had played lacrosse, and I was like, I want to keep playing lacrosse. So that's my answer. I don't know. Science is cool. I'm going to do that too, I guess, but like, that'll do. And so that's why I ended up at Bear. They had a lacrosse team, and they were one of the few people that would let me on the lacrosse team, so I played there. And it was one of the best decisions of my life. But then you get into college, and it's like, the first year is cool, you can do whatever you want, you take whatever, any classes, and it doesn't matter. But then the second year rolls around, and they're like, all right, it's time to choose that major, you know? Like, you gotta pick something. And I'm like, oh, do you have like a playing outside major? I think that's what I want to do. And oddly enough, that's what environmental science is. You just play outside, and you can, he knows, yeah, you guys in the back. I wrote a paper one time where I studied salmon and the effect of this mine in Alaska that could explode and ruin the biggest salmon hatchery, and I was like, okay, like, I like that, so I want to save the fish. So I'll do environmental science, and also play lacrosse, so like, cool, I'm good, like, good until graduation, right? And that's kind of how it works. If you pick your major and all the classes are on that sheet, they're like, you just need all of these, and you're good. And then lacrosse is like, you just go to practice and play a little bit, you're good. I was like, all right, cool. I'm set. That's all I need to know. And it was good. Like, I settled down. It felt right. And being a student athlete, even being a student, you have these things. You have structure in your days. You have structure in your years. To be a student, you have finals at the end of the year, as you well know. You have tests along the way. You have to show up to class, and you have homework. Like, you know what to do every step of the way to get to the end. It's all structured out for you. And lacrosse, it's the same thing. Any athletics. You have championship at the end of the year. You have playoffs. You have games. You have practice. And like, you gotta also do well at school to be able to play lacrosse. So like, they tie together a little bit. And all that like made sense. You have to be disciplined to do all that stuff. And that's a good thing. And within both of those, there's an automatic community built in as well. In your classes in environmental science, you guys are a team, you know? Like, you have the classes together, you struggle, you go through the homework, the projects, you complain about the teachers, like you are a team in that aspect. And you can feel it. Like, I remember feeling that when I was in environmental science. And same goes for lacrosse. You have the locker room. You have an automatic friend group built into it. You practice together, sweat, you bleed together, you play together, you have fun, and about the coaches together. It's all important, and you have this thing that you're all working towards. And all of that kind of leads to identity. I had the identity of a student athlete. That's who I was. I was a student athlete. When people ask, it's like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm a student, I'm an environmental science guy, and I play lacrosse. That's who I was. For all of my life, I was a student athlete. That's what you guys are. You have purpose. That identity, all of these things gives you purpose, and you feel that here. Like, you walk around and you're like, I'm doing something, you know? That is until graduation. That is when that question came back up. I didn't have my list of classes anymore. I didn't have my practices. It was really just, what are you gonna go do next? I was like, I don't know. I can't play lacrosse anymore. I had a bum knee, and like lacrosse just doesn't go anywhere unless you're amazing. I was not amazing. School, you can keep going. I did not want to go to grad school. So like, what's next? What? I only had one other answer. It was to play outside, and like, I kind of ended up doing that, but treat hemlock trees. But that was down the road, and like, I didn't know what was to come. Like, all of these things I had been and done my whole life. There was like a stamp at the end, and it was like, all right, now you're going into the real world, but also you have none of who you were. And I was like, toaster. So what came next was an external noisy search. And what I mean by that is, I got out of college and I didn't know what to do, so I looked around. I looked at my friends and my family. Social media was a thing way back then, and I was like, what should I do? I was asking the world, like, who am I? What am I supposed to do next? And everyone was like, well, obviously go get a job. You gotta make a living. You need health insurance, you need to buy a house one day. You want a dog, you're gonna get married, you gotta save for a ring. You gotta get, I think I said health insurance, that one was hard, huh? You're gonna have kids one day, you gotta start saving for that. What about retirement? And I was like, oh my God, like what in the world? And that was what I mean by noisy. It was like, just like chaos around me. And I was like, okay, like shut up. I will get a job. Like, it's okay. And so I did. I went and I got an office job. I was doing civil engineering, which has nothing to do with my major, which is ironic. But I silenced all of the noise through that. All of those things that people and everyone was telling me to do. I was like, okay. I got a job. I paid money. Got health insurance. And when all of that noise settled, there was still some other noise that I had never really heard before. Maybe I had, but it was very clear at this point. And I called that the voice. Noise is outside of you, the voice is inside you. And I remember sitting in that office thinking, what am I doing? What was my answer to what I want to do all throughout my life? Because I want to play outside. And I'm sitting in an office, in a cubicle, inside, like directly against the thing that I want. Because I let the external rule what I was supposed to do. It's time to listen to the voice. And I started listening to like self-help stuff, self-improvement. I learned about meditation. I was learning about Buddhism, like anything, like find your purpose books, just something, like give me an answer. And I could, again, I was looking outside myself for all the answers. But I learned a lot of things along the way. One of the most important things was listen to yourself, listen internally, listen inside. I was like, well, what does that even mean? No one has taught me that. Listen to yourself. And I kept digging down that route of what does that mean? And meditation helped, but it wasn't quite it. Something that popped up, and that was the best piece of advice I received from all of that nonsense that I was taking. Not that it's nonsense. I took in a lot of nonsense. It was where did you hear the voice the best? Not find the voice. I was looking for something, but it was well, where does it come through? When do you feel aligned? It's outside. The answer I had always known was the answer I was looking for. I just had to be okay. And so I kind of tapped into that. And I was like, all right, well, how do I get outside? And I started a company with my buddy JT, Retreat and Watchers. And that was a step towards it, but it's still something missing. And I kept digging, kept learning more and more, and things were saying you need to find stillness, you need to find silence, you need to settle everything around and basically get rid of the noise and to be able to hear that voice. And I was like, okay, I need to go with this. That's kind of the thought that popped in my head. Where do I hear it most? It's out when I'm hiking around in the woods. And so that was a little seed that was planted, and time passed, and I was scheming to get out of this job. And one day I went on a trip to Alaska, which is oddly full circle because that's what brought me here in the first place. But we went on some hikes, and I was like, yeah, I like hiking. This is good. Out in Alaska, the last frontier, beautiful area. And we're sitting in a coffee shop the next morning, and I look over, and there is, I'm not joking, I was in a building, and there was a halo of light shining on a book like this, under a shelf. I don't understand how it's happening. Maybe I did, but the book said, Hike the Appalachian Trail. And I was like, oh, that's it. And that voice inside was it exploded, and it was yes, that's the thing, that's the thing. And I was okay, I get it. I think that's the thing. And I went back to work, I lived my life, and it didn't leave. That voice inside was you remember that book, remember this thing, and one thing led to another. I talked with my wife. I was like, what if I just go hike 500 miles? She's like, I don't know, like, maybe. I was like, come on. Like, it put it to rest. I just want to get out there a little bit. She's like, fine. A few weeks went by, and I was like, okay, well, if I hike 500 miles of it, like, might as well just like halfway. It's only 1,000. It's a double. She's like, okay, like, that's fine. And she wasn't happy about it, but she was like, this is something you need to do. Go for it. I was like, okay, well, if I go halfway, my legs are going to be in shape. Like, I might as well just keep going. Like, it's going to be harder and longer next time I come up to the other half. She's like, just hike the trail. Like, go get out of here. And she's a trooper. She's put up with some stuff. But so we settled. Like, doing it. We sold our house. We were going to move anyways, but we sold it. We didn't have to sell our house for it. Sold our house. She moved in with a friend. I quit my job. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. It's fine. It's settled. And there's little baby Miller, little new me with the giant backpack standing up there, standing up the trailhead, like a little kindergarten. My dog did a few days with me. He didn't go the whole thing, but and it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made, besides marrying my wife. This is just the pictures of the trail. Like, it was truly magnificent. It was amazing. The views were incredible. But that's not why I was out there. I went out there. It was my rite of passage. It was my time to figure it out because I was tired of dealing with it. I had all these questions and I just didn't know how to answer them. And so I went out there to find the solitude because I knew I'd be alone, to find the stillness, to find silence that I was looking for, to be able to hear that thing inside, to be able to like wrestle with myself, to figure out who I was and what I wanted. So that's what I did. But it was also the hardest thing I have ever done. Because if you've never done that before, you don't know what you're going to get into. And when you're out there, as they say, everywhere you go, there you are. And I was the only one hiking a lot of time by myself. I could not get away from myself. And there's no TV. You can't use your phone on the hike. Like, you can listen to books, but that's only going to make you think more. And so that's what I did. I just thought about everything. And it was great. It was hard. It was crap. But it was necessary. And it's something I'd never done before. And a lot of this took form in journaling. I kept a blog while I was out there at the request of my family, so they knew I was on the hike, I think. I was going to keep a little journal, but like 3 days in, the journal got waterlogged and I scrapped that idea anyway. So I kept the blog, and that kind of was, at the beginning it was like, today I hiked up here and it was really hard, and I saw a little bird and it was cool, and like that's literally what it was. I'm not a writer, like I did not enjoy writing. And as the days progressed though, I started to observe more things. I started to take note of more things. I ended up having my headphones with a little microphone, and I would click a button and just talk into it, and it would record my thoughts. And as I would interact with people, and as I would react to people, and as I would do different things, I would notice how I felt about it. Because like, you know when you say something to like a pretty girl, and then it's really lame, and later you walk away and you're like, what in the world? And you start like, that's what I did just all the time. And it was mind-numbing, but it was good. And I noticed things that I'm like, I regretted saying, or I regretted snapping, or I regretted something. And that was the voice in one. It was like, that's not you, you know? Quit, knock that off. And then there's the voice on the other side. I say something and it works, and it's calm and peaceful, and it's like, that was it. You know, like that was like a little check or confirmation. Yes. And I began to feel the difference there. And that's how I would adjust. And I started like just leaning more and more this way towards myself. And the journaling helped. And I was able to unpack it into words. And the blog took a form of its own. I began writing about spirituality, which is going to happen if you're in woods for 5 minutes. I'll tell you that. Can't avoid that. But I wrote about all kinds of stuff. And it was crazy. And I turned into a writer out there. It was like a superpower unleashed inside of me. And that turned into the book. Like, if you want want to hear about the hike itself, that's where it's at. I cannot do it here. Or read the book. That's not what today's about. But journaling is what helped me. That was my technique. And guys, it's cool to journal. Matthew McConaughey journals. It's a cool thing. It'll help you out. But all along the way, as I began to feel that pull either way, I began to ask why. Like, why did I feel that way? Why did I react that way? Why did I think that thing? And I realized a lot of it wasn't mine. It wasn't from me. And I think that question itself is the most important question we can ask ourselves. Like, why did I do that? And I realized a lot of the things were from, like, how I was raised, or from my teachers, or from my friends around me. And, like, it was all these things that were just kind of implanted in me without me ever thinking about it. It's just kind of became who I was, and I never really considered it until I began to observe it and question it and ask why. And that's what it means to self-question to me. Now, as this happened, I literally, like, my trail name was Mander, like salamander, and I thought that was weird at first, but I realized salamanders go through a metamorphosis, and that's what was happening. I literally thought, like, look at the difference. Little dweeb Miller here to, like, total badass. I was a different person that day. Like, look how much more confident I'm so sure of myself there. And the problem with that is that I fell into the same trap as I did in college. I adopted a new identity that was about to be removed. I had the structure to my days. Everything was exactly the same. Like, I wake up, I eat, I hike, I go to lunch, I use the bathroom, I hike, I camp, repeat. Like, it all made sense. Discipline, I hiked miles. Community, there's a community out there. Like, I had my hikers around. They're half the reason I made it through. Just like it in lacrosse. Like, it's right there, hand in hand. I had purpose. I had my mountain at the end. And I knew how to get there. And I had identity. I was a thru-hiker. Until right here. Mount Katahdin at the end. Can't see it, but I'm also crying in that picture. Because it was such a bittersweet moment. Because I was like, oh my God, I did it. Thank goodness I don't have to walk anymore. That was awesome. But I'm also like, I do not want to leave. Like, I know what's coming. Like, I have been through this already, and I don't know what's happening next. And it was one of the toughest moments of the trail was finishing the trail up. But I had the tools this time. I knew who I was now, and I knew that to go into the real world, I could go into the woods. I could do some journaling. I could do these observation things that I had learned out there. I knew how to listen to the voice now. And that's who I am. I am that voice. And so now that I can tap into that, I can walk down that mountain out into the real world and I'll be okay. And there's something very relieving about that fact. And whether I knew it that day or not, I came to experience the truth. Like, I'm a different person than I was before I went out on the trail. I don't think I would have been up here talking on a stage before that. So, and I owe it all to that why question. So, today, no one ever told me this. I had to figure all this out on my own. And it was really painful. I suffered a lot. And I don't think either of those things are really necessary for growth. I think struggle is, but unnecessary suffering is not necessary. It's wasted energy sometimes, unless you gain something from it. So if you want to go suffer, by all means do it. But I'm telling you today that you have permission to be you. You have permission to listen to that voice. It doesn't matter what social media says. It doesn't matter what your parents say. And it doesn't matter what the script says. You can do what you want, and you should. Because it's your voice inside that's guiding you. And when you go against it, it's going to get louder. It's going to be more painful. It's going to hurt until you start to pay attention to it. You have permission to create your own plan. not only do you have permission, you need to create your own plan. School gives you a plan. Athletics gives you a plan. And I think that teaches you how to follow a plan. But it's on you to then create your own thing after college. That's what it means to go out and open the world. And if you don't create your own plan, someone else will. And it doesn't always align with what you want with that voice. And you'll know it. So, back to the question. What are you going to do after graduation? It's the same question. I hope you feel a little different right now. But why are you doing it? I think a lot of people in the room are, whether it's here at college, whether it's in your sport, whether it's in your major, some of you are doing it because it's expected that you do it. You're on this path because your parents want you to be on a path. Whether it's spoken or not, maybe you think your parents want that. And that's why you're there. Or maybe you're still in a class because you started the class and you think you should finish it. Or maybe you think this is your career path after because all of your friends are doing it and it looks cool. I don't know. And maybe some of you haven't questioned it at all and you're just kind of like floating along like I was. That's not any better than going the wrong direction, I'll tell you that. Some of you haven't thought about it at all, and that's okay. Like everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be, and that's fine. But it's on you to figure it out. And it's on you if you go the wrong path. So it's time to start thinking about it. That's all I'm saying. Because I waited a long time to think about it, and it gets worse and worse. But when you do think about it, think about these things. Structure and discipline go hand in hand and are very beneficial. But you need to create your own structure. You need to create your own discipline about something that you care about. Community is the foundation of my life. And I owe that to playing lacrosse. If I saw how much it affected me when it was gone, that I realized how much I benefited from it and how much it mattered. And I see it, I've worked on farms and in the food system, and like I see it, how important community is there. I've worked in all kinds of stuff. I was a bagel maker this past winter. And there's a community there. Like it's the most important thing in my opinion. So find your community. Find where you're being led to. Find your people. And find what you want to fight for and grow with. But the last one, identity, be careful. Do not put your identity wholly in something that can be taken away. Because if you are only a student athlete, when graduation comes, what's left? You'll find out, but you may not know until after the fact. It's okay to be a student. It's okay to say, yes, I am a student athlete, but you are more. You are that voice. You are something greater. So find out what that is. Get in touch with that thing. Because that'll guide you where you need to go next. That's all I got today. I appreciate you guys listening. And I know this is kind of a heavy conversation, and I don't mean for it to be heavy, but it should also be kind of heavy. Because it matters a lot. It matters to me. I hope you can feel how much it matters, because I really went through a lot of struggle. And I think I did, so that maybe I can help other people not have to suffer as much. I really think that's part of my voice. That's where I'm being led to. And I don't have anyone's answers. Only you have your answers. But talk to one another. Be in community. You're not alone in all of this. Like there's something special about community. And when we come together, we can all figure it out. So thank you all. If you have any questions, Dr. Campbell's going to come up here, but or not. We're already starting. But I appreciate it.
What is one thing that you take now that you would enlighten yourself to not necessarily have all the answers by the time you graduate, but to hopefully find it?
episode of Babyface?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Pre-chops.
Pre-chops, yeah. Yeah, one Babyface for long. Stop looking outside of yourself for your answers. Like I looked around a lot at the people around me, and you can learn a lot from people around you. But when you do that, you gotta kind of like run it through the filter of yourself and trust what that feeling is. Like trust yourself, because you know better than anything outside of yourself. Things may look shiny and nice out there, and people go different paths. You know, like a lot of my friends went down this path of like getting an office job, and they're doing really well and they're happy. But like that doesn't mean that it's for me. And I think that's what I would tell myself. Like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be weird and go your own way. I've done that, and it's been paying off. You know, like I lived in a van. I'm in Montana, and it's just my life seems to get weirder and weirder, but it's cooler and cooler, and I enjoy it more. So, yeah. So, Ginger.
What would you say was your hardest moment on the trail? Second question, did you ever want to quit?
The hardest moment overall was the end. That was my hardest moment. But like a second hardest moment would probably be Virginia, the section of Virginia. They call it the Green Tunnel because you don't leave the inside of the trees. Like, you saw the picture like that. You're hiking just like right there in Virginia. You don't see anything around you. And it was mine. And that's the part where you're past like the honeymoon stage. It's past the first 500 miles, which is all fun. Like there's a big festival at 500 miles that I think. So you're looking forward to that and everything. And then you leave the festival and you're hit 500 miles of nothing. It's flat. There's mountains in there and everything, but you leave the festival and you're like, well, I don't know what to do now, and I have 1,500 miles to go, and it's just like a weird shift. And it rained almost the entire time I was there. I was wet all the time, and I didn't dry, and I was just losing my mind. Like if you've ever been wet for like 2 hours, it's pretty bad. But like if your shoes are wet all the time, and your socks are wet, and they don't dry, and then you get in your sleeping bag, and your sleeping bag's wet, and then you get out, and it's raining, and it's just like the worst thing in the world. But that's also when I met my family that I hiked with. They're the only reason that I went through it. That is also the moment that I wanted to quit the most, was in Virginia. I was still early in on the trail, so I was like more okay if I quit. But yeah, that was tough. But the people, again, the community, the people are the reason that I kept going. They're the reason that I had all of this change in everything anyways. So I owe it to the people, and the people that supported me along the way too. Like, there's a community outside of the actual thing. Yeah, that's my answer. Anyone else?
Other questions?
Questions about the trail itself? I know I didn't really touch on that very much.
Is it true that it's haunted?
Honestly, I think so. I had some weird encounters. There was one night, actually. Yes, that was it. I camped here in the middle of nowhere. Like there's a cliff there, and there's like a little trail that goes by, and I was in the middle of it. And I'm laying there falling asleep, sober, and I start hearing the mariachi band, and I'm like, that's peculiar. Like I'm pretty far away from everyone. Why would that be up here? And I think I might have been like a little asleep, which is very strange to say, but the band got louder and louder until they were circling my tent. And I was like, this is super weird. Like, I hope they leave because I would like to go to sleep. And I'm also scared to like pop my head out because I think they're just gonna kill me for some reason. Like I got this weird feeling that they were like murdering mariachi band. And eventually they left, but like it was a spooky feeling. And I definitely saw some UFOs out there, and a lot of people had weird encounters with like looking into the trees and like seeing something. I don't know. I never looked into the trees. It scared me.
Going off his question, did you meet any people that lived like on the trail? Like I heard people, there are people who like lived in the trail.
Yeah. There was one guy named Goodwill, and he got all of his gear from Goodwill. And he got the name because his first thru hike, he bought it like 2 days before, took it all out, and the tent had a hole in it, and he didn't know. And it rained, and it was freezing, and he almost died. And everyone was like, well, you're Goodwill now, because whatever. But he for sure lives out there. He is like the most unique person I've ever met, but like everyone knows him. Like you talk to people that have done it years past, and they're like, oh yeah, he's been out here, and I don't think he leaves the trail, which is crazy. Like, how do you do that? I don't understand how you like buy food. I don't know. That's a guy. There's other people that do it like year after year. So they'll go work as like a truck driver for a few months and earn enough money to then hike the trail again. And I met a guy that it was like his 17th time or something like that, which is bizarre. I would never do that 17th. But yeah,
What's your version of what playing outside right now for like keeping the sun?
I like that. The van was a big one. I recently stopped doing the van, so I'm working on finding that, but I'm starting with a landscaping. I worked on farms. I worked on a farm last year. That was that thing. Being in Montana, I don't want to play outside in the winter, so I worked at a bagel shop, which was actually a lot of fun, and then landscaping. So a little artistic landscaping stuff. So yeah, try and play.
Can you talk about trail magic? I'm always
Yeah.
reminded.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get into that. So I called the book "The Trail Provides" because that is a saying out on the trail that you hear from day one, and it means a lot of things. But it means that the trail provides what you need, not necessarily what you want, and it always gives it to you when you need it, and you can't always see what's coming. And so a good example of it is trail magic. And what that means is like you're hiking along and you come to like a little gap or parking lot or something in the woods, and there's a tent set up and people are grilling burgers there, and they have beer for you and good food and everything, and they're just doing it for free, and they're just giving it to you because they want to support you out there. And it's just this super weird, genuine, like compassion thing that most of them are previous thru hikers, and they'll come back and do it because it's just this thing that keeps rolling, and they understand the benefit of it and how much it like fuels to keep going. But that's generally trail magic. But it can range from like hitchhiking rides, like people take you to town. A lot of it's food. And honestly, beer's fantastic out there. Like you're not carrying anything with you. It's the best thing at the trailhead. But I know this is Barry, so I apologize. But that's generally trail magic. But and they're called trail angels, the people that are running them. And they're like just the best people in the world. You know, they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart, and I think they get something back to them. Like it really makes an impact. And people are very gracious about it. But that's trail magic. But other examples of the trail provides are, well, there's some interesting ones in there. But yeah, and along with that comes this phrase of like pass it forward. And every time you go, or like my first shuttle, I didn't have enough money, and the lady's like, just hop in, pass it forward. Trail provides. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but and then it just kept popping up. Like every time someone would give me something or do something, the trail provided for me. There's like someone right behind it being like, but don't forget, like pass it forward. Like it's not in here with you. Like, keep it rolling. And I think there's some magic in it. And so that's why I named it that. It's true. Like that phrase is true. And I see it in the real world too. And it's more and more there the more you pass it forward as well. So
I know this, but for context purposes. When you were growing up, were you a big camper or outdoorsman? Did you like to camp? And when you were growing up, did you ever envision yourself going on this journey? One more question. If you had to give somebody advice that was to take this trip on, what would you give them?
All right. I did not camp until I was in high school, probably, maybe college. I love being outside. I played outside all the time, but I never camped. My family didn't grow up camping. But one time they did camp. My parents are here. The one time they camped was when my mom was pregnant, and it rained the whole time. And I think there's some like weird thing about like why I like camping, like how safe, sound in the little womb. But so I didn't grow up camping, and I had never done anything more than maybe 2 days, 3 days backpacking before this trip. Like I camped a good bit at that point, but not like nothing close. What was the last one? Advice.
If you were to give someone advice.
You don't need as much stuff as I started that picture at the beginning. I started with at least 45 pounds of stuff and a 65-liter bag. I would take a little like Ninja Turtle walking around with a 3 shell on. And by the time, I don't have any pictures of them, but I changed bags, I got rid of a bunch of gear, and I ended up with like 18 pounds of stuff that I threw things with. And it was fun. I started literally like wanting nothing. Like all these ultralight guys were trail running. I want to do that. I literally just like got rid of that. So I could do it, and it was a blast. But yeah, that might be advice for just life in general. You don't need as much travel.
Get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
Touched on Appalachian Trail, so changed you spiritually.
Yeah.
How would you say how going into it and coming out of it changed?
That's a rabbit hole. Going into it, I was very confused. I grew up as a Christian. That doesn't matter as much, but just for context. And I was very confused about the church and about what it taught and all this stuff. And when I went out there, it was kind of like I wanted to wipe everything clean. I wanted a clean slate so that I could really find out what I believe. And I just like put everything away. Everything I knew about it, like just tried to experience it from a new perspective. And that in itself led me to actually question it. Not like I don't want to think about it, but like trying to poke holes in stuff. Like I think this is wrong. And then I'm like, but why do I think it's wrong? And there's that why. Like I really wanted to question things because I wanted to understand what I believed and what made sense to me. And it opened doors to all kinds of like ways of thought. I listened to books. I mentioned Buddhism earlier. Like I really dove into that. Meditation and all that really jives with my brain. And so I went down that route a lot, and I listened to Eckhart Tolle, like The Power of Now, and Presence, and I got in with all this stuff. But also like I really dove into like nature and what if like God's in nature and all that stuff. And like it really twisted things into like a bundle of like I don't know any answers. Like I don't think anything is wholly right. Like what if all of it's a little true? And that's kind of where I sit now. And that's okay with me. I have tried so hard to figure things out in that regard, spirituality, religion, and everything. And I keep hitting walls, and I keep like, and I think that's the point of all of it, is that you do have to have like a thing of faith behind it all. And I like that. I kind of learned that I like not having the answer in that regard, but I like to continue to search for the answer. And that's taken a while to get to, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I think there's an energy floating around at all times. And we can choose if we want to tap into it or not. And I think we have to be present to be able to do that. That's all I got on that.
Well said.
And then on the side end, I love going, read the book and everything like that. When you get on the trail, things get simpler, right? And when things just normalize for you, and you enjoy the
Yeah. By the time my brother got out there, I had like started running and everything, and I was like in super shape. And he came out with these like Nike Flyknit sneakers on and this like little backpack, and I was like, "You want to do some running?" He's like, "Yeah," and just instantly lost him. And he caught back up. And we had like 12 miles to go, and he caught back up. And he's like, "I don't know if I can make it. Like, this is kind of rough." And it made me slow down a little bit, which is good. I think it was necessary, but after that day, you could see that he like understood it a little bit more and respected it a little bit more, and saw that it was pretty hard. Like it's not all just fun hiking. It's a different kind of hiking. And Christina saw that as well. She came out multiple times and did some hikes with me and everything. And I think I never tried to explain anything, but I think maybe they just saw that she saw me at like intervals of the quarter, basically, like 500 miles, 1,000 miles, 150. I think she saw a transformation taking place, and she like understood it more because of that. She was like, "Oh, like this, you did need this. This is working. This is what you needed." And I don't know if that's even a good answer to your question, but I think you get out there and do it, and you realize that it's like actually no good. But it is beautiful, and it's I'm rambling now.
Can you speak to the process of like actually publishing a book?
Yeah, that was madness in itself. Writing the book, I'm going to talk about that for a second, and then I'll go to publish. Writing the book was honestly maybe as hard as hiking the trail, because one, I had to relive all of the events, which was just very hard at times. But also, like, I was in the van at the time, I wasn't working, and I went through this struggle of like self-worth, of like doing something that I thought was valuable. This was like the true test of the book. Is like, do I think this book is worth writing, or do I think I need to do something else external to feel value in my wife's eyes, in my own eyes, in my family's eyes? And it took me 2 years to write the book because of that. And so the book writing itself was like, I could literally write a book about writing the book about this. Like it was truly that maddening. But publishing it, it was cool because like it's cool to click publish online on like an article or something like that, but you hit publish and like that pops out and you're like, oh my god, like that's crazy. I can't believe I did that. And then it's like, okay, now it's done. Like what am I doing now? And that was a weird thing to struggle with as well. And I've talked to people who write dissertations and do certain things like that, and they're like, yeah, no one sees all the stuff that goes into it, and then one day it's like boom, and it's done, and like that's it. And so like that was a really weird part of the publishing process. As far as like logistical ways, I went through Amazon, which I would recommend in a different way than I did it, because I'm not in catalogs online. I can't be in bookstores. I can't do all this stuff. So I'm gonna have to republish it to do all that stuff. So be wary of Amazon. Did that answer what you wanted? Okay. It was a strange little process for sure.
How long did it take you to hike that trail?
5 months to the day. I started April 15th on tax day, and I finished September 5th. Yeah. This isn't like a gas me up, but a lot of people take like 6 or 7 months to do it, and I wanted to do it faster, and I'm glad that I did it earlier, because like it gets colder and colder the more you go, and I was like, I'm done. It also rained so much out there. Like I think it's on record being the wettest year on the trail. I swear it rained like over a third of the days that I was out there. Often for like 2-week stretches. I write about it in the book. It's truly like, people are getting trench foot. Like it was crazy how wet things stayed all the time. The trail was mud. It was bad. But yes, 5 months.
Yeah, I remember watching your vlog when you were doing it, and it was like the rainiest summer ever.
Yeah. Yeah. As you get farther north, they become more frequent, like up in New Hampshire and all that stuff. I love like skiing across the rocks on the river. Little elf or something like that was my thing up there. But as the water got higher and higher, you can't do that, and you have to just go in it. And I had these little slides. Like a lot of people wear Crocs out there. It's like you can't shoe because you don't want your hiking shoes on all the time. But the slides had no heel, so I was either like wear my shoes through the river or wear these slides or go barefoot, which is not ideal. And the slides were very slippery on rocks. And I remember one up in, it was either Vermont or New Hampshire, where you could tell that there were rocks that you could hop across at some point, but you couldn't see them in the water because it was moving so fast. And so you're like holding your bag above your head, just like trying to step not on the rock, but you're kicking these giant boulders, and then my slides are trying to fall off. It was probably comical to watch if you were on the other side. I was honestly pretty good at it, but one of my friends fell in multiple times and got his toilet paper wet multiple times and had to like set it out in the sun. And it was just, that kid was a disaster of a hiker. Great shirt.
Rough average, how many miles would you do
I think 18 is what it added up to. The beginning, if anyone, is another piece of advice, anyone that wants to do a long hike, start out not doing a lot of miles. I started doing like maybe 10, and I jumped up way too quick, and then I hurt myself halfway through the trail because I didn't slowly build up. But I wanted to go fast. And then I started running, and it was my own fault that happened. But on average, people probably do 12 to 15, but I had friends out there that were doing like 25-mile averages, which is absolutely insane. So 18 is a lot still.
Oh, you say you have like friends out there, like you're hiking with? Are these people that you hike like the entire path with, or maybe just like a couple of weeks or like?
Me personally, I hiked with that one group for basically all the way through, like 500 miles. So a month, I guess, is how long I spent with them. I met up with another group, which I don't have a picture, but we finished at the end together. And I hiked with them for probably like 300 miles together. But there are people out there that like do the whole thing the same way. Like the people I finished with met like days into the trail and hiked the whole thing together. I think I'd probably go for someone if I was out there for 5 months. But yeah, it just varies. Me personally, that's how it played out. Yeah. Is someone back there? Have a question? Yeah.
Do you plan to do any other long distance trails?
Make sure Christina doesn't. No, I don't think so. Not at the moment. Unless, who knows? But like, unless something happens and then my wife wants to go with me, or like one day if my kids want to do it or something, yes. As of right now, no. I'm into trail running, and that's I cover enough miles that beats me out enough. So, yeah.
Asking for a friend, but how do you go about finding a life
That's a good question.
Start a berry.
There's many of them out there. A lot of tests at the beginning. No, I'm just kidding. I actually met her here. She played soccer. My roommate was dating her roommate, and we hung out and we met. But honestly, I don't know if that's a serious question or not, but my piece of advice with that would be to find someone who aligns with you in the best way possible. Aligns with like, their voice, aligns with your voice. And when you're truly like who you are, if you guys mesh, that's what works for me at least. But yeah, find someone who's very understanding. And what's best for her? I think that's why she was okay. Because she knew that I did that route.
Last question, you touched on bump knee or something like that. I know you eat up and flare a little bit. How's the body hold up on the trail? You know, kind of stronger at the end, or is it weak? You know?
Yeah, that was a fear in the back of my head the entire time. I trained, so I decided to do the trail in like September or October, and then I started in April. But the time between that, I was like crushing training. I had a pack on, and I would like, do long walks, all that stuff, lunges. I signed up for Mountain Tough, which is like a backcountry hunter military training program, and it worked. I was just worried about this guy. For those who don't know, I had like 4 surgeries on my knee. I played lacrosse my senior year. I couldn't even run. Like it was bad. And so that was in my head. I was like, if anything is gonna go wrong, it's gonna be me. And so I did everything I could to like strengthen it, all that. Ended up, my foot was ended up like almost breaking. I had plantar fasciitis on the bottom of it, which just hurts anyways. And then at some point, I stepped on a rock weird, and it felt like my foot cracked in half. And this was like 400 miles before I did it. And I was like, oh no. Like that's how it happens. Like I step on a rock. And it kind of healed, didn't really heal, and it took like 6 months after the trail for it to stop hurting. Not even heal, so I could walk. But yeah, the knee was a fear for sure. A lot of people got injured, which made you pay attention to what you're doing. Because I mean, I saw a kid break his ankle, and it's just like some gnarly stuff that can happen out there. So yeah. Yeah.
So you were training for like 6 months before, and then the hike was 5 months, and then you said you were for like 2 years. So how did you like support yourself like financially?
My wife. No, we had sold our house, and that was a huge, like, we bought our house at a good time, we sold it at a good time, we just had like a chunk, and but you probably spend $1,000 a month out on the trail with food and some gear, and during that time, like I worked up until I did it, and then after that I got a job doing some stuff on the computer. So it was, that's basically what I was doing, just stuff on the computer. But she worked full, she had just got, it was the weirdest timing is very strange in my life, but she got this new job like the week I was going out there, and it was just perfect timing. So yeah. And she lived with a friend, so we didn't have any house payments.
Do you have any plans for, you said you ran on the course a lot, do you have any plans for like ultra running in the future?
I actually did a 50K this past year. So that was like my therapy after I got off the trail, because I was like in great shape. Like, you get off the trail, I looked emaciated, but once I put some weight back on it, my legs were bulletproof. And so I was like, might as well just like use it, like keep it going. Like I love running now. Once my foot healed, I started running, and I did a marathon the next year, which I hated running, like, which is so funny. But I read Born to Run. I recommend that to everyone here, and changed my life. And that's how it all began. Did the marathon, absolutely despise road running, hurts my body. And then I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I love being on the trail. Like, that's what it is. And so started training for the 50K, and I guess I have words.
What was the most you did in that?
I did a 30-mile day. I think that was the most. That was pretty.
I know you did some training before. What did that consist of? Like, what all did you do to prepare for this trip?
Honestly, like a ton of lunges. Like, I feel like that's all I did for some reason. But it was mainly, so the program I got was like a heavy pack program. So like you put sandbags in your pack basically, and then you'll have it on your back, and you're doing step ups, tons of step ups. Because like that's climbing, you know. And is that, but also like I did some like one leg stuff, and then a lot of like slow lunges with like a lot of weight here, because that's like walking downhill as well. It was a lot of like little just mind-numbing things that really strengthened it from the base. But I also hiked a lot, maybe like the path, which oddly enough was less weight than I started with, which which makes zero sense looking back at it. But yeah, a lot of like stuff for sure. Yeah. Yes.
Speaking of mice.
The mice. So I did a lot of research as well. I listened to podcasts, YouTube, all that stuff leading up to it. And people mentioned the mice, but I was like, I'm just not gonna stay in the shelters. Like, there's not gonna be mice around. And they're everywhere around the shelters. Like, they'll just come out. Like, you can see them. And one story I had of the mice, the worst experience with the mouse I had was I was up in the Whites or something like that, some park where you have to sleep in the shelters. It's regulated, you can't sleep on the vegetation. And so I get to Camp Late and the shelter is packed and it's raining and I'm like, I'm not setting up in the rain, I'm sleeping in the shelter. And the only spot was like up in the corner of the shelter. I'm trying to think what it was like a slanted roof and a platform, and then there's another layer below. And so the only spot was right here in the corner. And I was like, well, that's what it'll be. So I like weasel my way up there. People are getting ready for this. I was like, there's space up there when I'm climbing up there. I had just gotten a new sleeping bag that was meant for cold weather, but it was not cold enough for that sleeping bag anyway. That's just a preface. So I set up there and I like snuggle my sleeping bag and the ceiling is literally right here in my face and my whole body like that and there's a person that lays down next to me and I'm like, okay, this could be interesting. And then I like fall asleep and I'm like, okay, we're good. And then a mouse runs across my arm and then runs around my face and I wake up and like almost slam my face in the ceiling, and I'm like, what was that? And then I hear them like all along the edge of the border, which I was laying against. And not that, like, that was that. And then I was sweating in my sleeping bag because it was way too hot out. It was humid because it was raining. And that guy was next to me snoring. And I was like, I'm gonna lose my mind. And then I got really claustrophobic, and mice were freaking me out. And I started hyperventilating. And I eventually calmed myself down. But like, I was laying there just, I thought I was gonna die. Like, it was truly for a while. Not to mention, that mice were there. But that's my mouse story. Hate the mice. But they're at the shelters for sure. Yep.
All right, let's give Miller another round of applause. You're selling the books,
yes.
So they're available. You can ask him more questions. If you take nothing else from this, pass it forward. You don't need to know so much stuff. Those are life lessons. Hold those close. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it.